Hey everybody, it's Carm here. Well, that's what I've had to tell myself if I want to get back into all of this. Well, yeah, I'm back on a gorgeous October Saturday. The time of year I live for, really. And yeah, perfect day to come out and hang out with you all for a bit. Thank you everyone who's sent messages and reached out, and even in the comments and everything, and just asking how I've been and wondering where I've been. Yeah, I appreciate it so much. Doing fine. It's been a busy summer, and just kind of hadn't really planned on taking the summer off, but for the most part I did, from being on here and even watching a whole lot. But yeah, feeling compelled to come back, of course at the behest of my chief inspirer, as I refer to him, Chris Cole. Many of you know. I did a wonderful video recently sharing some books, which he was inspired himself by Alan, Static Traveler, and of course, in his way, he always kind of gently nudges, and yeah, well, here I am with some of my own. Yeah, so I figured I do kind of a of course there's always music, tons of it, and always immersed in something in one way or another. So much I don't even know where to begin at this point, but eventually I get back into that. I figured it'd be a little easier just jumping back in with a few books, which it's been a while, I think, since I've done an all-book video. And yeah, it'll just be a few things that I read fairly recently, in the middle of reading, and some things I've lined up for hopefully the sooner future than later future. And yeah, first and foremost, and most importantly though, I have to give thanks to dear friend, really angel, and I think like a favorite aunt of the community, DJ Trish, who as ever, she's always every season, or a couple times a season, she kind of makes the rounds, sending us these wonderfully diverse, eclectic, joyful CD mixes that she creates herself, takes the time and sends them out to all of us, just for the joy of giving. And she's done this for, I think, at least a decade now. And if you know her, you can't find the words to describe just how wonderful she is, and open-hearted and thoughtful. And so thank you as always. Yeah. Starting in with a little note that she always sends, and she doesn't mind and even encourages us. We could read it on camera. And here's, okay, dear Carm, I hope this package finds you well. Well, I miss seeing you on YouTube. Please come back. Enjoy the tunes. Trish. Thank you, Trish. I just got this a couple days ago, and right around the time I was planning on possibly doing this, so thank you so much. Let's see what we have here. We'll find out together. I'll show the address. It's Falling Out of Summer 2022. Oh, very nice. Yeah, she'll do these also kind of transitioning from one season to another, the themes of her mixes. She has her information here. Those of you who aren't familiar with her and want to look look into her videos, and she has a blog here. And even before really looking at it, it's going to be, if you know her tastes, it's a very eclectic mix. And I always say these are wonderful to listen to, if you're doing other things like around the house or on a drive. You'll get a constant change of different styles and approaches and moods. You have pieces by Ella Fitzgerald, Roxy Music, Earl Van Dyke, Celtic Woman, David Bowie, Dionne Warwick. I mean, where else would you get that on one place? You know, music from all over the world. Which I know she loves possibly more than anything is, you know, what's known as world music. So, yeah, this will be fun listening as always. So, thank you. And yeah, please, you know, check out her channel if you're not familiar. Thank you also to, I think I've had at least a few notifications of new folks who've come over. Yeah, thank you for your interest. I don't know how long it's been, 3 or 4 months, and you know, people are coming during that time. So, yeah, thank you. And yeah, I'll just start in with some books here. Just finished this the other day. This is actually a reread. First read it when I was about 19. The Metamorphosis, Franz Kafka, concerning a fellow who basically wakes up one morning transformed into a large beetle-like creature, you know, living with his family. Didn't show up for work because of this condition, and kind of goes through the day of you know, what it's like to wake up in that state, and his family's reaction, and feelings of you know, basically really heavy alienation. There's something I'm finding out about Kafka's writing, reminded of, and Chris was saying this too in his own video, about you know, even though there's like I guess a tragic comic aspect. You know, he's highlighting the, you know, again, the heavier, darker, more melancholy aspects of existence, but it's leavened with a certain humor. Sometimes a little harder to see, you know, right away, but if it weren't for that, it'd be a story that would be harder to take. But again, it's essential to our, you know, to the whole thing. So yeah, it's very good. It's definitely curious to look into more of his writings, as I've known him for such a long time. I have a Tangerine Dream album that's actually based on one of his stories, The Castle. So, I'm piquing curiosity further. So, Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka. Something I'd read over the summer. Twee, The Gentle Revolution in Music, Books, Television, Fashion, and Film. I found this in Flagstaff. My last trip to Arizona, Bookman's, my favorite places, and I had been curious about this term. I'd read it over the years, and even in videos, you know, people talking about different music and things. It was often used as a pejorative, and I wasn't quite sure. It made me all the more interested to find out what it meant, so it was fitting I just happened to run across this book, you know, when looking for other things. And it is quite illuminating, and it's something I really identify with a great deal. Being somebody who, I would say, was born nostalgic, sentimental, very much into, I guess you could say, Robert Rich would call it the echo of small things, the things sort of in between the cracks, the little aspects of life that, you know, give it a certain gravitas. They may not seem like much, but they really are. That's what it seems, what I'm finding that Twee is in part about. And you know, from day to day, it's surrounding us, and you know, just being open to receiving these things. But yeah, you know, the more it's something I think I need to reread, because it's a small book, but both fairly dense, and there's so much in here, and talks about the various people that are kind of considered, you could say, forerunners, or, you know, the greatest illustrative expressions of what Twee must mean. But I guess in a sense I'd say that I'm Twee. I've been maybe Twee the whole time and never knew it until I read this. So yeah, very, very good. something that was a gift from a friend through YouTube, known for a couple of years now, Kelly. Books I'm Not Reading is her channel, and she's in the BookTube community. She kindly sent this to me fairly recently, maybe in the last couple months. Close Range, Wyoming Stories, Annie Prolks. I think she was giving away some books, or just asking if anyone was interested, and I expressed interest, and she very kindly sent it to me, along with some tea as well. They were talking about tea, and she herself is from Wyoming, as is her husband, who also has a channel, Jason, Old Blues Chapter and Verse. And yeah, I have this off to the side, and I'm waiting for the right moment. Just something about the look of this and the feel of it. I have a feeling that winter time, perhaps being snowed in, would be the best time to really to leap into this. And yeah, so thank you once again, Kelly. Looking really forward to jumping in. And I'd been curious about the author for a while. I'd heard her name for a while. So yeah, very nice. At Close Range. Something I found maybe a month ago at a bookshop I hadn't been to in years, coming back from work one day, going kind of on the near north side of town. Delius, as I knew him. Eric Fenby. Delius, the English composer, and Eric Fenby, who's also a composer. This chronicles his time with Delius, who during the last few years of his life was mostly paralyzed and blind, in his later years, and really unable to continue with his work, composing and realizing these pieces he had in his head. And Eric really gave of himself, wanting to, he lived with him and wanted to help him sort of actualize these pieces, being a composer, a compositional student himself, and kind of chronicles the relationship there. And yeah, just kind of the dynamic between them. I'm only about maybe a third of the way through, but yeah, looking forward to getting further into it. I have Jeff to thank from Calico Silver for shedding light on the composer. It's one of his favorite composers, so he's talked about him in his own videos. So yeah, to let him and the rest of you know how this goes. Let's get further along. This is a poet I'd read years ago and been revisiting recently. Georg Trakl, Poems and Prose. Austrian poet, I believe. Left the planet very young. I think he was only in his late 20s. Poetry that's very, very dark, seemingly foreboding. Some might even say morbid. Although I feel, again, kind of going back to Kafka, there's that kind of, if not tragic comic, there is an acknowledgement of the beauty in the darkness, or the even a sense of hope, even though on the surface it may not be there. I feel, though, to keep writing, there must be some hope there, even if the tone is, of the darker aspects, what's under the surface that just might be hard and unpleasant to see and take in. He really just goes straight for it. I'll find a shorter one to read, give an idea of his style and approach. Let's see here. I found one. Here's one called In Spring. Softly from dark steps snow sank away. In the shade of the tree, lovers raised their rosy eyelids. Dark calls of the boatsmen are ever followed by star and night, and their oars softly beat time. Soon the derelict wall will bloom violets. The brow of the lonesome will ever so calmly grow green. That's probably one of his more upbeat poems, maybe. But again, I find some just real resonance with these ever since I'd read them maybe about 20 years ago. I think I had learned of him also from one of Klaus Schulze's albums. I think he did a piece on X or 10 where he was dedicating it to various writers, his favorite writers, like Frank Herbert and others. But I think he was one of them. So, naturally, as Chris was pointing out, books and music, really go hand in hand. Or, all forms of expression, all, tying in one way or another. So, yeah, Georg Trakl, Poems and Prose. This one I'm just about to finish, and I love this title. The Healing I Took Birth For, Ondrea Levine. Her and her husband here, as told to Stephen Levine, spent a lifetime together, or a good portion of their lives together, working with death and dying. People who are in hospice or people who are in the grieving process of one form or another. They're kind of really, I guess, at the forefront of that, helping people through transitions of various kinds. And coming from largely, primarily a Buddhist perspective, but really universal, something that, would help and benefit anyone. And this is her own story, growing up very difficult. Someone who suffered, lived with, and I think to this day is still overcoming quite severe dyslexia, not just with the written word, but with speech as well. And anyone who knows what it's like to be misfit in any way, could really identify with this. And there's so much wisdom here, and really you could hear the voices of both of them, Ondrea and Stephen, in their various ways, coming through. There's some beautiful videos of them, which if I can remember, I'll put below, of them. They gave these things called couch talks their later years together. Stephen himself had passed on a few years ago, but they would sit on their couch and they'd have their cats around them, and they would just pick a topic or sometimes just kind of riff together on just all kinds of subjects, not just mortality, but just one's approach to life overall. But I couldn't recommend this enough. Very beautiful and moving and inspiring. And Ondrea Levine, The Healing I Took Birth For. And finally, a book that, it's been on my nightstand it hasn't left my nightstand in over 15 years since first discovering it. Don't Push the River, Barry Stevens. It's one of those books that, as I say about music, what I'm really attracted to, beyond that which moves me, is something that's refreshingly beyond category. You really can't, you could define it as, this is memoir, philosophy, psychology, even little bits of fiction that she weaves in, but it's just, a person, I think, expressing the deepest part of themselves, but doing it with all the range of emotions and all the range of experiences, and tying it together in this beautiful, non-linear way, really just like general speech, when you have an idea and it flits to another, and but it goes so naturally the way she tells this. And I don't know if I'm really explaining it very well, but I just find it continually inspiring. You could open up to any page and find something new, or be reminded of something, and it always stays very fresh. And I've even bought extra copies of this to send to people over the years, and just couldn't recommend it enough. Those who I feel would benefit from it. But just one of my favorites. Don't Push the River by Barry Stevens. So wanted to come back on with Yoda. This is actually a gift from Colin Medicine Horse, I'm sure many of you remember, who very, very early on was kind enough to pass this along to me. So yeah, thank you all so much. Hope you're doing as well as possible. Yeah, hopefully we'll try to come on more and more often, and again, there'll be a lot more music, and yeah, I'd love to hear about what you're, if you have any thoughts on these books, if you're familiar with them, or what you're reading, and everything else. And maybe this will, as far as people who make primarily music videos, maybe this will continue the train, so to speak, of showing literary interests. So thank you all once again. Thank you, Trish, and well, till the next one. Peace, love, and joy.